now that we've got some points, let's actually draw this line between everything. Now, one of the kind of downsides to this is because we're just getting a list of points, there's no kind of definition between which letter is which. You can kind of see this line between the I and the L. You know, it doesn't really know the difference between where a letter starts and where it ends. It just kind of transforms it to just points. So we're just going to have to work with some of the limitations of P5 to actually do this. We don't need to draw the line if you don't like the line, of course. But what we're going to do is draw this from scratch. So if we go back, how do we do this? Well, again, you can kind of see here that they want to begin a shape and add a vertex to the shape and then close the shape. So we're going to start to do this in the same way. Now, again, there's a few ways to do this. There isn't just one way to do any of this stuff. We can go to shape and we can actually start to draw different types of shapes. So things like begin shape in here, it's kind of what we want to use. So what we're going to do is actually after all of the points. So after all of the points, we're going to add some more space in draw, because once we finish drawing these circles, we want to begin a shape and do this. And at the end, we want to end the shape. Now we can end the shape in a few different ways. If I click end shape, there it is. I can do it as a close. I can do it as not closed. There's two options. I'm actually going to have it close at the end of the shape, just to show you the difference a little bit later. And next, what we want to do is actually make these vertices and kind of add different points across the page. And just like before, instead of this being added one by one, we're going to loop over our points. So what do we need to do? For our points, we want to do something to the points. We want to do something for each of the points. We want to run something for each of the points. What do we want to run? Well, we'll tell each point to do something with some code, curly brackets. Again, I'm just going to open this up. And for this shape, instead of drawing a circle, this time I want to draw a vertex, basically a line saying vertex. We start at point X, comma, point Y. So we're beginning the shape and then drawing different points on the shape itself. So now if I look at this, we'll see something that looks like this. Now, what is going on here? Well, basically you can see it is drawing the shape out piece by piece, but it's also just filled it in the kind of color that it expects. And that is because we put further up in the code, fill this and be no stroke. So again, I'm just going to close this up a little bit just to keep them together. Once we've drawn these kind of circles, we can then overwrite this and say, in fact, for this shape, we don't want any fill. So no fill, and then round brackets. So now what we'll see is no shape at all. And instead, what do we want to do? We actually want to color this in. So to color this in, we want to add some kind of stroke to this. So again, if I look at color, I've got this thing called stroke, and I can stroke this in certain ways. I can put a stroke weight on here. I can put a hexadecimal thing in here as well. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to add a stroke of a certain color. So next, what we want to do after we've said no fill is we add a stroke. And what color is this line? Well, this line is exactly the same as those colors. So if we fill it in with the same stroke, let's see how it looks. So now what we should see is this line going between each of the points on the page. Now, if we don't want this kind of final line that's going across from this S to the D, and notice there isn't one at the final one here, this is because the shape is trying to close from this point to this end point. So just to get rid of that, all we need to do is stop this point being closed. End shape is not being closed anymore. So now that we don't get this line going across the page. But we could change that color if we want to. We can change the stroke weight if we want to too. So for instance, something like a white color might look pretty good on this. So if I make it white, notice that the line is above the circles. And the reason for that is the circles get drawn first and then the line. If you want to change the order, I can just cut this up and paste this above here. So I've got my line and then my circles, so it's going the other way around. So it depends on which one you want. Because mine are the same way, it doesn't really matter too much, because in the end, they're in the same place, it's the same color, it doesn't clash.